Okay, so today we're gonna start second chapter of education, which is titled Philosophy and Education. तो पहले हम इंट्रोडक्शन से स्टार्ट करेंगे तो कंसेप्ट ऑफ एजुकेशन जैसे आपको पता है कि एजुकेशन लाइक इज़ अ वेरी ओल्ड टर्म इट इज़ एज ओल्ड एज द ह्यूमन रेस जब से ह्यूमन रेस इवॉल्व हुई है तब से एजुकेशन का सिग्निफिकेंस है इट्स अ नेवर एंडिंग प्रोसेस ऑफ इनर ग्रोथ एंड डेवलपमेंट एंड इट्स पीरियड स्ट्रेचेस फ्रॉम क्रैडल टू द ग्रेव लाइक क्रैडल आपको पता है जिसमें छोटे बच्चे रखते हैं फिर उनको झूला झुलाते हैं लाइक द मोमेंट दे आर born और लाइक इन द इनिशियल years of their life or like grave you know that like cover so like from cradle to grave it is a never ending process so like education starts from cradle to grave so man is a social animal what do you mean by that it means that man has societal aspects and societal needs he needs love he needs affection he needs friends he needs everybody who can he share his feelings or like emotions he learns some things every day and every moment हर मोमेंट पे हर मरहले पे कुछ ना कुछ इंसान को सीखने को मिलता है सो दैट इज बेसिकली लाइक is a component of the education his entire life is education so if you can like just in cursory words we can say that whatever like a human being learns or like whatever he experiences through the course of his life it is known as education hence education is a continuous and a dynamic process that means like education is continuous it's a never ending process and a dynamic so it is continuous in nature it is not static means ये एक जगह रुकता नहीं है like दिन ब दिन you keep growing you keep evolving and you keep seeking education so education is a very comprehensive term. It deals with ever-growing man in the ever-growing society. It deals personality of an individual and makes him intelligent. Like we always it's always a point of discussion whether like education is the need of the hour or like if education really matters the way it mattered like long time ago, like a few decades ago. Like how is education different or how does education influence oneself? So yeah, here it is written that education makes individual intelligent. He makes him learned or her learned, makes bold, courageous, and possessing strong character. Because these are the aspects, these are the facets of education. Until and unless you don't seek education, you don't pursue education. I won't say like you can't be courageous, you can't like possess a strong character. But yeah, like when you seek education with the right mindset and with the right intention, like there is a higher possibility of having a strong character than the one who doesn't pursue education. And also, you know that while you seek education, you become knowledgeable, you become intelligent, you know what is right and you know what is wrong. You have a rational mindset of approach. You apply scientific, logical perception to everything. Thus, education is essential for the growth and development of individuals as well as society. So that's why we always keep stressing on the fact that education is very much essential. Why? Because it is needed for the growth and development of individuals. And why, when the individuals are like grown and developed, eventually it means that the society as a whole is like grown and developed. Okay, so different philosophers, politicians, statesmen, and educationists have defined education differently about their own viewpoints and some circumstances. So like there are different like scholars and different educationists and different philosophers who have in their own ways or in their own way like words defined the aspects of education and meaning of education. So if we like focus on the deep meaning like etymologically meaning like it has different view like for instance education is derived from the Latin word educare which means to bring up or to nourish like we can take example of a small sapling जब आप एक छोटा पौधा जमीन में उगाते हो so what do you do it तो आप उसमें पानी डालते हो यू टेक केयर ऑफ इट लाइक हर दिन देखना पानी डालना यू मेक श्योर कि लाइक सनलाइट मिल रही है उसको तो यू मेक श्योर कि लाइक उसके साइड पे तो कोई अनवांटेड ग्रास वगैरह तो नहीं उग रही विच कैन हैम्पर इट्स ग्रोथ so yeah so basically it's nourishment so in simple words it means that the child to be brought up while keeping in view certain aims and ideals okay so according to another view education is derived from the Latin word educere which means to lead out means किसी को राह दिखाना or to draw out. In simple means, it means to draw out of the best in the child and man. Draw out means like taking something out of something. Okay. For instance, when you seek education, when you make sure that you provide a good like education to any individual, you make sure that you are taking something out of him, or you are giving a face, or you are giving a platform to something inside of him that is the best part of him. Okay, so that's why we say like education gives individuals like a platform to showcase their best abilities. And according to the third user, education is derived from the Latin word educatum, which means the act of teaching or training. Basically, you can say like when it comes to teaching individuals, when it comes to training individuals or human beings as a whole. So you can say it is a part of the education, or it is a meaning of the education, because it is also derived from the Latin word educatum, which means the act of training or teaching. Okay, so now we'll study Indian approach to education. You know that Rigved, like the religious books, which defines that education is what makes a man self-reliant and selfless. What is self-reliant? Self-reliant means atmanirbhar, like you don't need anybody's help, or like you are self-sufficient. And selfless, like eventually you make sure that you do everything like in your capacity to make sure that your needs are fulfilled. So education is the tool to do that. Like Upanishads, education is that whose end product is salvation. Salvation means mukti pana. Like eventually when you read something, when you seek knowledge, eventually you come to know about the purpose of life. So basically, when it comes to religious books, so that too comes in the facet of education. Like Shankaracharya's view, he says that education is the realization of the self. Like अपने आप को जानना, उसको हम education बोलते हैं. Like Mahatma Gandhi, what he said by education I mean all around drawing out of the best in child and man, body, mind, and spirit. Like yeah, taking the best out of anybody. So, which includes mind and spirit. And Aurobindo's view, he says education means helping the growing soul to draw out that it is in himself. Like soul means ruh. Like when you take out the best thing from like your soul, it means education is helping you for that. And now we'll study about the Western approaches. Like there was like very different philosophers and thinkers and educationists that give their own understanding of the education. Like Socrates, he said education means the bringing out of the ideas of universal validity which are latent in the mind of every man. So he focused on the ideals, like ideas of universal validity that are valid throughout the world, that have universal validity. So Socrates focused on that, and he meant to say when he defined education. Aristotle, which is known as Arastu, what he said he known as education is the creation of a sound mind in the sound body. Like we always say that a sound body has a sound mind. What do you mean by that? It means that you are functioning in a good way. So when your body is in a good functioning methodology, or is in a good shape and equilibrium, it means that your mind is also functioning in a good way. So eventually, he says that education is the creation of a sound mind and sound body. When you have a sound body and a sound mind, it basically means you have created education, which helps in developing man's faculty, especially his mind. Okay. And pestalozzi mean to say that education is natural, harmonious, and progressive development of man's innate powers. Means like innate powers means that are inbuilt in a human being. Okay, Froebel defined education is the unfoldment of what is already enfolded in a germ. It is the process through which a child makes his external. So eventually he says that it is all ingrained in a human body, but with the help of education we can make sure that we show it to the world. Okay, so that was the Western approach. And also like there's one more, there's Kant, Emmanuel Kant. He was one of the progressive philosophers of his times, and he said education is the development of the individual of all the perfection of what he is capable. Like eventually it shows the powers of a human being. With the like the powers of education, it shows that what we are capable of doing. Okay, because education enlightens everybody different way. So now we focus on the narrower meaning of education. Education means conscious and deliberate process, well planned to modify the behavior of the educated and desirable in socially approved channels, and to bring about the educand's specific knowledge and skills. It is limited to classroom teaching of ready-made materials. If we like talk about the educational institutions, like a teacher generally gives a lecture to the students. So it is a form of like imparting education to the students, but it is only limited to the classroom because of like we have a book, we have a blackboard, we have a projector. So all the exposure, all the knowledge, all the like experience and skills are imparted to the students, but it is very limited to the classroom. What is broader meaning? Education means the process of development from infancy to maturity. You know that like when a child is born, from the moment he is born and till the moment he dies. So it is a long process and like it is a process of development. So eventually education means that. It begins at birth and continues through life till death or from womb to tomb. Okay, so now we'll just focus on analytical meaning of education. One can say that education is not limited to knowledge imparted in books. It is not limited. Like education has a very diverse area and sphere. It is not like limited to the knowledge that is imparted in schools, colleges, or universities. And we know that like it helps in development of child's innate powers that are like inside him, that are ingrained in him, like that are in him by birth or in her by birth. It's a dynamic process, as I said, that it's not a static process. It is a bipolar process, like educate and educator. Like there are two ways of imparting education. Until and unless you don't have somebody like teaching you or imparting necessary skills in you, like it cannot, the process is not complete. And it can be a tripolar process like educate, educator, and social settings. For instance, you seek knowledge from somebody and then you impart it to other people, or you implement it around your surroundings. So eventually it's a tripolar process, a purposeful process. Like education has a purpose, it has a definite purpose that is needed for the long-term success of the individual as well as the society. And it is a continuous and a lifelong process. सो चलता ही जा रहा है जब तक वहाँ पे जिंदगी है तब तक एजुकेशन चलता ही जा रहा है अ प्रोसेस ऑफ इंडिविजुअल डेवलपमेंट एंड एडजस्टमेंट like how you develop yourself, how you adjust yourself in different ways and different facets of life in different conditions. Okay, it is science as well as an art. Why is it science? Because it is it comprises of logical reasoning. And why it is art? Because like it's the way it's a skill based mechanism, it's a skill based entity. We impart education with the help of teachers, with the help of professors, with the help of mentors and training agents. And then eventually we learn from them, and eventually we make sure that we implement in our daily lives. So eventually it's science as well as an art. So now we go to the important concept of philosophy. What is philosophy? Look, philosophy is a very broader subject. It covers all types of human activities. Anything we see and experience in life has to be understood and analyzed through philosophy. Like जो भी हम ज़िंदगी में देखते हैं, एक्सपीरियंस करते हैं, वो हमें अंडरस्टैंड करना होता है और एनालाइज करना होता है फिलॉसफी की विद द हेल्प ऑफ फिलॉसफी. कैसे? लुक we'll just focus on the meaning of philosophy. Look, philosophy means the knowledge of reality, like what is perceived through human eyes. What do you see on daily basis? That is philosophy. It is the knowledge of the reality. Okay, the sun is rising, or the you see the moon at the night, you see the stars twinkling, you see the man, you see the people going through the street. So it is philosophy, it is knowledge of the reality. So these are derived from two Greek words, philo and sophia. Philo means love and sophia means wisdom, like we've like discussed in first chapter of the education, where the meaning was clear that philosophy means love of wisdom. So philosophy means belief and point of view concerning purpose of values, or what they call philosophy of life. Philosophy of anything is the basic philosophy resulting from research for truth and reality. Like सच्चाई को जानना, सच्चाई के लिए research करना, that is the basic philosophy. It deals with the content of pure thought. It doesn't deal with like anything, any biasness or any fakeness. It depends on the reality. जो आप आंखों से देखते हो, जो आप perceive करते हो on daily basis, it is a thought process. It is a completely pure thought process. जो आप देखते हो, that is the meaning of philosophy. And philosophy can be understood like we know that it has four natures, okay, or it can say it has four branches, like logic. That I said that when you apply your reasoning, when you apply your reasoning of thought, when you question yourself or when you question things on the basis of रैशनैलिटी कि ये सही है गलत है, आप इसमें वो चीज़ अप्लाई करते हो जो कैलकुलेशंस होती है. फॉर इंस्टेंस अगर कोई आपको बोलेगा like for instance there human life is possible in Mars, you'll question him how it is possible. Is there air? वहाँ पे क्या हवा है, वहाँ पे पानी है, इज देयर अ वे कि हम वहाँ से वहाँ पे मकान बना सकते हैं, वहाँ पे वेजिटेशन ग्रो कर सकते हैं। तो सो यू विल यूज योर intellect, you will use your scientific logic and rationality. So it is based on logic, axiology. It is the theory of values. Like, you know that every philosophical question is related to good, bad, right or wrong. So सारी चीजें इसके अंदर आ रही है. Epistemology means it is the theory of knowledge. आया समझ? Like आप human beings के related जितना भी questions है, जितने भी answers है, जितने भी facts है, जितने भी concepts है, that all come under the branch of epistemology, with the eventually the parent aspect of it being the philosophy. And metaphysical, we always say like the general reasoning questions, हर किसी इंसान को एक prerequisite questions हमेशा mind में होते हैं, like general reasoning इनको बोलते हैं. So that concerned with the metaphysical aspect of the philosophy. Okay, like now we'll say the definitions of different thinkers and philosophers. Like S. Radhakrishnan says, philosophy is logical inquiry into nature of reality. Like when you use your logic into know the aspects of reality. And Coleridge says that philosophy is the science of sciences. Oh, that's amazing. It's the science of the sciences. Fitch says philosophy is the science of knowledge. Amazing. So basically, you can say like when you use your logic, when you use your scientific temperament and rationality to seek knowledge from the reality, it eventually means philosophy. Okay. Now we'll just discuss about the concept of educational philosophy. Eventually, like we know that when you when you approach any educational experience from a different way of aspect, like when you use your critical thinking, when you use your different methods that include your intellect, include your rationality, include your scientific approach, eventually it means educational philosophy. For instance, when you apply different methods like critical evaluation, you have come across different questions where it is written that critically evaluate means you use your logical perceptions, you use your scientific temperament to make sure that you seek answers for the problem. So eventually, education philosophy is simply the process of approaching any educational experience from critical, comprehensive, and synthetic methods. So now we'll broader realize about the concept of educational philosophy, like when it says that it is normative function, helps the teacher and the administrator not only get involved in wilderness but to clear sight aims and adopt certain needs. In its critical function, it casts a penetrating and searching out every aspect of education, its substance, content, and validity. So it talks about simply for instance, there are different aspects you'll study in the higher classes, like hypothesis. Like there are certain hypothesis tests that are carried upon a research problem when you are not sure about, or when you need to uh, arrive at a certain conclusion whether to go for it or no. So yeah, this is certain aspects like consistency, wherein you make sure that you perceive and you inspire logical reasoning. And moreover, in its speculative or synthetic function, it leads the educator and the educational administrator from common sense approach to rational and perspective approach. Like when you make sure that you apply educational philosophy, you don't use the common sense. Like you don't use the common intelligence that is used by the most of humans. You use a rational and perspective approach. That is what makes you different from the crowd. So in simple words, educational philosophy is a philosophical process of solving educational problems through philosophical methods from a philosophical attitude to arrive at a philosophical conclusion. That's a beautiful definition. So it means solving educational problems through philosophical methods from a philosophical attitude to arrive at a philosophical conclusion. So it aims to achieving general and comprehensive results. It is a species of the genus philosophy which is confined to the field of education. Thus, we can say that education philosophy is the philosophy of the field of education. And now there are different definitions, so you can just go through each one of them, where they give their own thoughts about educational philosophy. So now we'll just study about the relationship between education and philosophy. You know that there's a wide and close relationship between education and philosophy. क्यों? Both are very related to each other, और उनको हम अलग अलग नहीं कर सकते, because education is nothing without philosophy, और philosophy loses its existence without education. अगर education वहाँ पे नहीं होगा तो philosophy doesn't have any meaning. Okay, so it is just a plain definition. So these are complementary of each other. Like we can say these are the same, like two sides of the same coin. So now we'll just like read about relationship them under the following different heads. We say they are interrelated. Why? Because you know that philosophy is a theory and education is practice. Until and unless you don't implement what you've studied, so you can't like clearly establish a relation between the two, or you can say like the impact is not created. So that is why you say philosophy is the theory of education and education is the applied philosophy. So both are interrelated and influence each other. Philosophy depends on education. Like we've read that philosophy loses its existence without education. तो सारी फिलॉसफीज प्रोपगेट किए जाती है थ्रू एजुकेशन, और एजुकेशन उनको एक बेस प्रोवाइड किया जाता है, ठीक है. दे प्रोवाइड देम अ बेस फॉर द क्रिएशन ऑफ फिलॉसफी. And moreover, education transmits philosophy from one generation to another generation. Okay, so like education is a basic tool for the philosophy to function in a good way, and education is the meaning of achieving the goal of philosophy. And we can say that like there is a clear like understanding about ki, like education is very much dependent on philosophy. Like you can't take it out of the with that like philosophy will coexist without like depending on anything. But no, education is a vital tool that it needs at all times. So it is said that art of education will never attain complete clearness without philosophy, but we can say it like the vice versa also. Education also needs philosophy. So it cannot like it can say that we it cannot completely attain a clearness without philosophy. Thus, education is practicable only by a true philosopher. The process of education can't go on red lines without the help of philosophy. We can say that education is unthinkable without philosophy. Philosophy determines real destination towards which education has to go. It is well said that great philosophers have been great educationists also. Like you know that like whoever has been a great philosopher has been a great educationist too. And moreover, we can say that philosophy determines various aspects of education which are explained in under, like philosophy and aims of education. We know that like the aims are interrelated, like the aims of education are the same as the aims of philosophy. Like that's why the aims of education have been changing with the changing philosophy of life. Philosophy and curriculum. We know that the functioning of the philosophy to guide in the construction of curriculum and teaching learning material. Philosophy solves specific curriculum problems. We know that each year or like whenever there's a need of change, like schools, colleges, and like particularly educational institutions go through a need of changing curriculum. But also, what is the basic entity to do that? Like philosophy. Like when you have an edge over the philosophy, you can solve specific curriculum problems. And philosophy and methods of teaching. And we know that like methods of teaching have been selected in order to fulfill the aims of education and life. This is determined by philosophy. Like philosophy helps to select the method of teaching, because we know that every system of education has its own philosophical background and methods. Okay, so now, mm, okay, so now, philosophy and textbooks. We know that we are guided by philosophy in the choice of textbooks. The quality and the context of textbooks are determined by philosophy. Like how the books are like, or how the study material is created, how the quality and contents of the textbook are determined. It is only because of philosophy, and we know that philosophy and discipline. The nature of discipline is governed by the philosophy of life. Like classroom में कैसा discipline है, how the pupils are reacted when a certain teacher like teaches them or a certain subject is being taught to them, like the way they determine themselves, the way they carry themselves, the way their attitude reflects with the behavior of the teacher. That is also important with regards to the philosophy. In philosophy and teacher, we know that philosophy helps the teacher in understanding the child, because every child is like built different. Like a teacher, if he does not have a clear understanding of the philosophy, like he cannot do justice with the job, because like every student is different when it comes to like understanding, when it comes to ingrained capabilities, when it comes to possessing knowledge, when it comes to attitude while seeking knowledge. So it gives him philosophy gives the teacher a clear direction, guides him to handle discipline, and provides clarification on the nature of education. And philosophy also helps study the concepts of students and place of students. And also philosophy helps in studying the nature, scope, and need of institutional planning. So in the greater benefit of the students as well as the teachers, philosophy is needed in implementing the institutional planning. So it prescribes the guidelines for the establishment and the running of schools. Okay, philosophy and supervision. And we also have studied about like how philosophy determines the method of supervision, it qualities of the good supervision and other aspects of supervision. philosophy and evaluation. Like philosophy also helps कि हम कैसे reliable बने, or like how can we have a different objective when it means of evaluating different criteria. So philosophy helps in us doing that. So in conclusion, like we can just say that like philosophy is the basis of education. It is indispensable like tool, so we need it, like we can't dispense it, like we can't take it out of the scene. Okay, there's a need of philosophy in every aspect of education, and all the educational questions are ultimately the questions of philosophy, and philosophy is the guide to educational process. Okay, so we have just completed the chapter. Now these are short answer type questions. You can go through them to get more clarity about what we have studied till now. Like it talks about the nature, talks about the different definitions, and yeah, so these are some questions. You do one thing. So your homework is that you had to like solve your like complete these 10 questions so that you get a clear understanding of the chapter 2. Okay. Okay.